So then you have these different identities that's showing up in places, and you was mentioning something earlier about this whole relationship dynamic. How do these realities intersect with trying to develop? You mentioned community. Mm-hmm. How do you develop a community when you are perceived a certain way, and people maybe perceive you as, oh, Bruni, you have money, you walk on gold. Mm-hmm. How do you know who's being real, who's being fake? Just a homegirl to hang out with, or a homeboy to kick it with, or a love interest? How do you navigate that?
Okay. Well, I just want to say, in my, again, privilege and checking myself and just speaking like from what I have experienced in Ghana, I think most of the people that I have community with and get along with think of African Americans and Africans as having a shared identity and wanting to work towards connecting to diaspora. I think most of the people that I'm around, maybe it's by intention or design, but most of the people that I'm around, they don't think some crazy thoughts about being African American equals being disrespectful or being paved in gold. So I think that's like only an undercurrent. Yeah. It's not really like the predominant thought. So I just chop it up to whoever is feeling that way is probably either misinformed or uninformed, and probably not so much way. So I'm like, I'm gonna keep it moving. Like, here's my sister. We can have a conversation and have different points of view, but we still gonna be in the sauce. We still gonna be in the work. So forming community for me has been actually quite easy because I'm like, you're like-minded. Mm-hmm.
So you try to focus on the positive side of the whole
because
thing.
it's Africa's turn to rise. You feel me? The natural resources are here. If we're talking about colonization, we have to talk about neo-colonization. We have to talk about the things that are happening where you're going to get more and more outside perspectives. They might as well be black, you know, because if not, you're going to end up with who knows. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to have investments and things from the Chinese, the Lebanese, the Americans, the French, this is the third, but that's how Africa was scrambled for in the beginning. Yeah. Right. So at least if it can be amongst people who are like-minded and also black, then you can see the development and the rise of Africa in a way that includes all the Africans who belong to it from the diaspora. I think that's healthy. So when people have a different point of view, I'm like, stay over there with that. Stay over there with that.
But then here's the question: how do you get to that? To recognize this person got a different point of view, and I'm going there because I remember when we first moved to Ghana. My experience, even my wife's experience, was this is what would end up happening. You meet somebody that's cool. Let's say a homegirl. My wife, she meet somebody that's cool, but then we don't go to the same places to kick it. So what ended up happening was the relationship would not be here. It'd be like a sponsorship relationship. We're going here, but she's paying. My wife it is. She's paying. She's paying. She's paying. And then you don't want to make the person feel like, dang, like, but then the place the person may want to frequent was like, man, come on, man, they ain't got no washroom there. And it's dirty. I don't want to go there. So how do you get to that place? Or how did you, or even how do you get to the place of forming those authentic relationships without falling into that trap?
Right. I think, and honestly, plain and simple, I think the same energy that I would use into discerning friends and community in the States, right? Although it's different in terms of like, you're in a different place. So the needs are different, right? So you just have to be mindful of other things. I think that same discernment that I have in my spirit, like this is my tribe, you know, and it will be trial and error. Just like in the States, you meet people who you thought were, you know, and then do things. Yeah. In Ghana, it happens too. Now, and I think the places that you frequent, you'll find your tribe and you'll find your people. And I think what has been helpful for me is finding a diasporan community that I could build relationship with and be in community to hear the stories, because everything is a learning process, right? And sometimes you don't want to learn things by actually experiencing them. You want to hear stories. So I know I have a lot of diasporan platforms that I follow, even just on like WhatsApp, that have been very helpful and supportive. But I think I want to also be mindful, and I do this a lot. I do this when I feel like I need a mental break, is I start generalizing. So I'll say like, Ghanaians, I create the them versus us narrative that I came to Ghana to dismantle, right?
Yeah.
I do it all the time. We all do it, right? So I be like, Ghanaians, Chale.
Charlie, these
My
people.
brother. Right.
These people.
Right. And I get it. But what I'm trying to say is we also have to know that there are different people everywhere.
Wow.
And just because this one person, or you have met a few people who've done you wrong and have done things just for money or right, that doesn't mean the whole. So the same energy I have in the States where I'm like, oh, I'm not really feeling, or like, oh, you did me wrong, now I know moving forward, is the same energy that I have to be mindful to have here, and not have that mentality, oh, this one did me like this, so this person's gonna do me like this. It's like, no, I won't be able to live here. I won't survive in Ghana if I kept that in my spirit. Mindfulness and live.
And I think, like, okay, a couple points. So the first is Ghana is one of the safest countries in the world. And so when I've been trying to figure out community, I felt a lot more freedom to take risk on people that I might not be willing to do, because I know that nothing's going to come, like, harm to me, you know? Like
physical harm.
Yeah, like, let's just say, for all intents and purposes, like, what you out to get is on some sneaky tip.
Yeah.
What you going, $10? What you gonna take? Like, you know, you're not really going to come in and do some,
some high
my
level.
personal safety in Ghana is higher than my personal safety in Los Angeles times a million.
Facts.
You know, just times a
Facts.
million. So I feel like, okay, yeah, I'm not really sure about her, but let me give her that benefit of the doubt, because at the end of the day, nothing's going to go wrong in a harmful way. The other thing is, I would say, to Liba's point about generalizing, like, I think I hang out with a higher socioeconomic class here than I ever did in America. Ever. And like, what that does for me, it's not financial. You understand? It's definitely not financial. It's mental. It's like, now I can see how people are real change agents. Like, because if you're thinking about what I'm trying to do, what you're trying to do, wealth building, legacy, coming to Ghana and establishing something. I've never purchased land, but you've purchased all the land. Of course I want to be in your in your midst, because now I know how to purchase land. That's a big thing. And you meet a lot of Ghanaians. Every Ghanaian has land. Every Ghanaian, no matter which level, they're an entrepreneur. So it's like, of course I want to build a community. And then to the point about, oh, you know, and I feel you, trust me, I'm as bougie as the next one. I don't want to go no place dirty. I don't want to go but when you're living here and you're not just on vacation, you got to know, the same way that in America, if you're in a job, you got to know the janitor, you got to know the parking attendant, and you got to know the chief CEO, right? Because one day you're going to be locked out and need somebody to let you in. That's the janitor with all the keys. One day you're going to be running late. You're going to need somebody to save your little parking spot. You need all these people. So look, I need my hair braider. That's like the most critical person in my thing. I would tomorrow, I swear on everything, at this point, I don't even call him my driver. Like, I don't even call him my driver, I call him my brother. And of course, if you want to come inside and eat, of course I'm going to pay for you. That's like my, not even obligation at this point, that's my honor. Because if a shoe was on the other foot, this man has invited me to his family to break bread with them so many times. And I've been in places where I'm in great need. And the person you can call on is that security, is that driver, is that hair braider. That's who's going to show up for you.
But someone listening to this may say, but that sounds like you speaking from a real high place of privilege to even have driver. And I'm just going from where people may think.
No, and trust me, I will check my privilege if that's what it sounds like, by all means. And that's not really the perspective I'm coming from. What I'm really saying, though, is like, if all you can do, which is not you, Fatia, but if all you can do for me is take me to your village, trust me, I'm going to go, because that's probably where I'm most welcome. Okay. In a village where I've been to many a village where people don't have anything, and they still say, why don't you come in? Ghanaians are hospitable. Yes. Ghanaians are hospitable. Yeah. Ghanaians will be like, oh, you know what? We was about to have this little bit of rice, but you can have some rice. Right. Guess what? The next time it is, to your point, okay, I got to take you out, but I got to pay. No problem, because you paid for me 1,000,000 times over.
Ashe. I always want to start talking about systems, y'all, and structures. So I don't know what question, where you're going, but what I keep in mind, too, Because again, to echo what you said, I think Ghanaians are some of the most kindest and sweetest people you will ever meet culturally, like just in general, right? But when you think about, yes, the structures at B that are at place, and I won't name names, right? I'll keep it very general, right, for the sake. But I want to say when you have to survive, when you have to find money to pay for a year, 2 years rent, right? When you have to then also provide for your children food, for your family. When you live in Accra too, living in Accra is like living in the States. Yes, because in the village, they think Accra is New York City. So when you live in Accra...
To be fair, it is New York City.
It costs more than when I lived in Indiana. It's crazy.
But in the village, so if you're from Accra, that means your family in the village, you have to provide. You understand? So I say this to say, when you have all of these responsibilities and the structures at B are not supporting, and gas prices are rising, yes? When you think about survival at its core, even when I had to survive, I thought about doing things.
I thought about stripping.
You understand?
I thought about stripping.
Only fans.
I'm not even playing. I was like, dang.
Only fans.
I thought about stripping.
But
I ain't gonna lie. I was like, man, I'm gonna go to a faraway town where nobody know me. I need some money.
Do you understand?
I'm not lying.
I say this to say, right, again, we all have choices in life, yes? I think it's also important, and for me, I try to keep that at my foundation. People are trying to survive, and even the best of the best person will do something, possibly, for survival, to take care of family, right? So I feel like it's all structures that have to be taken. It's people, and then it's also systemic structures that are very much alive and active, right? And then when we talk about privilege, when you come to Ghana, if you have a Western passport, privilege is very much there. I think we have to name it. It's what you do with that privilege. It's how you speak to that privilege. It's how you say, I have privilege, but my sister's going to have some privilege too. Because if you put me in a club and my sister's not allowed in the club, we have a problem, right? Because we are one and the same. So when you come to Ghana, I think it's very much important to say, you do have privilege, period. Right?
Right. Which is why I was saying that I couldn't even call him my driver even if I wanted to, because that's my brother. Because if I'm going inside, he's also going inside.
Period.
If I'm eating, he's eating. That's how he's treated me. That's how I'm going to treat him back, because that's a good human being. And the other thing that I will say, and I just want to speak to this, so let's just say that we have this, like, again, misinformation or just like information based on like one single thing, and we run with it. Like I was like, oh, you know, Ghana is filled with scammers, filled with Nigerian scammers. Everything is scammer. The only person who has scammed me was American, shorty. Was American.
Wow. In Ghana.
Only person.
In Ghana.
I've been scammed once, and that was enough for me. And the only person who has done it, so American.
Was it American in Ghana?
American in Ghana.
Wow.
American in Ghana. And like, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, you know who called it out? Who called a spade was a Ghanaian warning me. Not somebody who was like, I'm in cahoots because I'm gonna get a cut. No. And obviously Nigeria and Ghana aren't the same. Obviously Nigeria and Ghana being only two countries representing over 50, right? So you're gonna have many different experiences. But like, when I think about like, oh, I was in Morocco, I don't speak this language, I don't look like these people, anybody could have run anything on me, and everybody was like, no, why would we do that? Why would we rob you? Why would we do, like, you hear these things, you can go to the Medina and be out late in the souk and be careful, and then you get there and it's like, there's nothing to be careful of. Then same thing comes to Ghana where you're like, oh, it's gonna be a bunch of scammers. No, it's a bunch of Americans.
Ooh.
Okay? A bunch of Americans.
She looked right at me. I wasn't the one. I wasn't the one. All right. What we've all talked about is some misinformation, some miseducation. There are some things that we all brought to the table. There's some healing that needs to happen. There are some conversations that need to happen. So then the question now is, we're coming together as different people in the diaspora. What can some of these individuals do? What can the Ghanaian do so that we can build Africa together? Because contrary to popular belief, at least most black folks that I know want to come to Ghana or Africa because they want to build something not just for themselves, but others here on the continent. So what then does that look like? After we get through the Obrunis and the this and the that, what does that reconciliation and healing look like? Sure, you can come.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I'll just say education is the key because the more you know, you do better. Yes. And so for how she feels, how I feel, and what it is, what is the truth. And so if we are able to know the truth, then I think we can work better. Yeah, so yeah, that's a point. Just get people to know the truths. And when we know the truth, and let's start from when they are small. I think we have to change some things in the educational system, even the way we make our children think. Don't let the child think that Jesus is white and the Satan is black.
Don't get me started,
You
please.
understand? Yeah. So don't make the children think that they are inferior, because that's how it's always been. Like black is always the negative side, and then white is the good one. Is a Jesus. Is a luxury. Is a money. Is a gold. Why? It's not true.
In 2021.
Yes, it's not true. And America shouldn't be the heaven.
Yes.
Because there's heaven here.
Correct. Done, everyone. Thank you. My sister has said it all. Hey. Hey. Spirit speak.
We'll show this video back to everyone.
Touch and agree.
That was so important.
That was important.
Can you say that one more time? I'm not even being dramatic.
Where's
that
the
was
mic?
so
Drop it.
important.
I'm saying America is not the heaven, because Africa is heaven too. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I want to just, first of all, like I said, cut the episode, drop the mic. My sister has spoken. That was it. We, especially here, the energy in this space, we feel that. You really spoke to something, and it actually echoes what I was going to say, which is twofold for anyone coming here, or what's kind of the way forward. I think it's very important for me, two things that complement this education and this sort of unlearning, right? So the first is humility, and the second is we have to decolonize our minds. The humility piece is that Ghana is perfect, and Ghana is enough, just the way it is. So coming in and saying but they don't have customer service, which they don't, and I'm like, but then I'm like, who needs customer service? You know what? It's actually not, he does.
I do.
Look, I also do, right? I'm lying.
I get you. No, I get
but
you.
my point being, when you have humility to understand, especially on the continent, the birthplace of civilization, and especially in West Africa, where there's so much root in spirit, and so much root in tradition, and so much root in people know how to do things. People have been growing food for longer than we knew that the earth was even round. You know what I'm saying? So there's wisdom here, and to come here with humility to say, it doesn't just have to be the American way. This whole idea of customer service, of course you and I both need it, but for me to just sit here and be harping on critical things and be like, as opposed to being like, what is here is a whole bunch of things that I could learn from. That's really important. So that humility is so key. And then the decolonization of your mind, she said it better than I could. America is not heaven. We have heaven right here. So what we've been taught is that in order to develop, we must develop in a Western way. We must borrow from the West. We must be efficient. We must be this. We must be that. Maybe, but maybe there's another way to be. Maybe there's innovation here and the unity that we do it in a different stretch. I think about things such as cryptocurrency, which the whole world is using, but the way in which we're using it, we might bypass the traditional banking system. We might be on the future before the future knows that it's catching up to us. Because what's happening is, cryptocurrency and how it's accessible in different ways to people in the developing world, and ways that we can do some big things. We might be able to finance a whole housing project for affordable housing on something that y'all just figuring out which one. Y'all still out here getting mortgages? We out here doing something else. And I think that's the decolonization piece that Sis is speaking to, that here is heaven. So here is all the innovation and all the resources that we need, so we don't actually have to replicate America.
Ashe. I would just add, my heart is so full right now, y'all, but I would just add, just the level of grace. Like, it took 400 plus years to separate us. It took 400 plus years for us to think that we are not of the same. And so it's going to take time and patience and humility and knowing that this place is magical, right? So just grace, right? And then I just want to encourage people, because I remember I used to romanticize the continent, and then people would say, don't romanticize it because you'll get here and then you romanticize the heck out of this continent, because you deserve to romanticize the heck out of this continent, because our ancestors were taken from here, right? And we weren't afforded the opportunity to see all of the beauty in this continent. And so keep romanticizing, keep dreaming about coming to Ghana and all the other beautiful countries on this continent, right? And then when you get here, continue to romanticize and continue to reimagine and dream of all of the amazing things that is possible on this continent and already happening on this continent. So I guess, just grace and patience, and just keep dreaming and reimagining and romanticizing all of the amazingness of this continent, because it really is all of those things, period.
I always said the one thing about Black Panther that I didn't like, which I thought the movie was almost amazing, but the thing that I didn't like is that it was fictional, and also like, what is that called? Like a comic book? I know it's based on a comic book, but it's based on something that like, fictional, not real. It's a made up place. And when I was watching it, I was like, no, that is really waterfall. Like, that is a real place. Wakanda is so real. Like, when you come and you see, like, there is so much beauty, and then you're like, why? Of course we couldn't tell you that for real, that that's just how it really is. We have to make you believe that it's not a place, versus just acknowledging, like, it is gorgeous, and always has been, always will be.
Yes.
I've been to Wakanda because I've been to the Vili waterfall. I've been to her hometown, Volta region. Like that, to me, I'm like, you will never see the biodiversity. You will never see the waterfalls, the mountains, the birds chirping. You will never have the serenity of your ancestors being among you. And then we go, oh well, it's a comic book. It's like. Actually kind of like a real, it's real, yeah. It's real.
For sure. And can I add one more thing?
Sure.
I just want to say a beautiful poet, and her name slips my mind, but she said something to the effect of, specifically African Americans or those of us who are taken from this continent, we live in that hyphen, right? We live in the hyphen between African American, Caribbean American. And so I just want to say too, as magical as this place is, I also want to name that we live in both worlds.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I think it's important to name too that if you come to Ghana and you're here for a little while and feel like you want to go back, but you feel like guilt or some shame, or like, I don't understand why I keep going like this, like, you have access to two worlds. And I just think that's important to say. That's okay. And that's beautiful too. And it's what you do in both of those worlds that matter, right? So just giving permission, because sometimes I go back and forth, and that's all right, you know? So.
Well, ladies, listen. Let me tell you something. I feel like this is the part, like if it was a movie where we're like hold hands and start singing a song like a Negro spiritual or something, and then like some Beyonce, Before I Let Go, her rendition of my all-time favorite group, Maze feature Frankie Beverly. But obviously we can't do that on camera. But I'm so grateful, because I do believe that, as one of my mentors told me, an amazing woman, she said that relationships create spaces for engagement. And I believe that what you have done today by being honest and open and transparent is enable people to not just start thinking differently, but even have the conversation. So I appreciate your time today. I'm sure a lot of people were blessed by what you said. We got to do a part 2 where we talk about maybe relationships, dating, and all that, but that's coming, all right? But until then, you got to share this video. You have to subscribe. You got to hit that like button. So until next time, peace.